Hey guys, so this is my fourth time trying to video this because I have sneezed in every single one of them. So if I sneeze, I apologize in advance. So I decided to do my research proposal on improving transition services for students with EBD. So why is this a problem? So transitioning from high school to adulthood is hard for anyone, but for students with EBD it is more intense and challenging. These students really struggle with academic and employment success, so based on that, transitioning will really help them move forward to adulthood. Many of the studies in my literature review have shown like transition planning for students with EBD has been disconnected, so that's like causing poor outcomes such as high school dropout and unemployment rates. So, my literature review examined 6 studies. Many of the interventions were project and program based, so they were run normally within um, a school that was more set towards students with behavioral problems. So, it was easier to run a project and program because everyone was included in it. But a majority of the data was based on measuring students' high school completion, if they applied to post-secondary school, their ability to obtain employment, and goal setting. So overall, I mean, there's not enough studies and research on transition services for high school students with EBD, which leads me to why I'm doing this research proposal. So, my research question is, does including vocational education within the last 2 years of high school increase students with emotional and behavioral disorders' sense of self-efficacy as they transition out of school? So, those of you who don't know, vocational education is education that prepares students to work in various jobs. So, it's a lot of job prep and just preparing you for future skills. For participants in setting, my participants are going to be 11th and 12th grade students with or at risk of EBD. And so those who are at risk were identified by the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, so the PBIS emotional screening. And so the PBIS screening compares students' performance to national norms, which helps depict if a student is at risk for EBD. So that's going to really help us identify uh, what students are going to be involved in the study. Also, a career and education specialist, so a CES, I'm going to be using a little bit throughout this presentation. They'll be in charge of implementing the vocational instruction. As for the setting, it will take place in a vocational classroom, so this is going to be kind of held as an elective class. You'll notice that when we get into the experimental design. So it's going to be a single subject experimental design um, to help measure the student's self-efficacy before and after the vocational class, along with a post-intervention and generalization period. I'm sorry for my poor spelling skills in this PowerPoint. So it's going to be based on a qualitative measure. So self-efficacy is going to be, you'll see how we're going to measure that throughout this PowerPoint. Actually, self-efficacy is going to be measured by using the adult needs and strengths assessment transition to adulthood version. So that's really long to say. So throughout this, I'm going to say the ANSAT. So the ANSAT was developed to support care planning and level of care decision making. So it's a tool to help measure adults, well, in this case for the study, students' needs and strengths. So for intervention procedures, the baseline is going to be measured through the ANSAT rating scale to see where students stand with their strengths and weaknesses. This baseline is also going to be done during the summer before they enter the vocational program, which they'll be entering at the beginning of the school year. So this intervention is going to be a vocational class held as an elective for 45 minutes a day, twice a week for 11th and 12th grade students. So these students will be in it for 2 years. and it's going to be held as an elective. We're also going to have other students that may not have EBD, but the only particular students that are going to be in this study are going to be the ones with EBD. During this intervention, the CES will be teaching the vocational class, which will focus on finding work interest, goal setting, action planning to reach goals, social skills training, and work training. And that's going to be based on students' interests. So, like, let's say a student is interested in maybe becoming a chef one day. We're going to, like, try to incorporate things that they may need to know for, like, culinary stuff. Lastly, the class will be focusing on students' strengths and needs based on their baseline testing. So we're really focusing on helping them in those need areas so they will be able to smoothly transition onto adulthood. As for data collection, so the dependent variable is self-efficacy, which we talked about will be measured through students' self-evaluation and teacher evaluation. That's going to be using the ANSA-T rating scale, like I've said before. The procedural fidelity is going to be measured through observation every other week with a checklist of focuses and goals that need to be met. As for generalization and maintenance, that's going to be with follow-up interviews for the students a year after the vocational program. So that's going to be so an interview is going to be set up with students seeing how they are doing and where they are in life currently. So the interview will consist of simple questions like, are they employed? Did they go off to secondary school? Are they living on their own? How is adulthood treating them today? Just simple questions on seeing how well this program helped them over the year. For social validity, after the vocational program, a survey will be given out to students, the CES, and parents. And so the survey will ask how they liked the vocational class. Do they think the students feel more prepared for adulthood? If there's anything they wanted to change to this course, what would that be? So we're just trying to get their opinion on it. We want to see how the CES thinks the class helped the kids, and they want to see what the parents think on how they feel their kids are going to be ready for adulthood. As for data analysis, data is going to be qualitative since it's going to be taken through interviews and observations and the ANSA-T rating scale. The students will be observed before, so during baseline, throughout, and after the intervention to see if there's any differences in self-efficacy. And that's also going to be measured in using the ANSA-T scale. Interviews will also be implemented to see how students feel themselves as far as their self-efficacy. So, a little example questions like, do you believe in your ability to meet and achieve goals and or expectations? I just feel like interviews are just going to really help us get a grasp of how students feel before going into adulthood. So overall, I just really think we need to find more research in helping these kids with EBD transition to adulthood. Thanks for watching, guys.